800s away in the Monobob today.
This is decent, this is nice. He's controlling the rides well. Little tap before he went in, but this is good.
So he's the man who is setting the speed marks at the moment. 93 kilometers an hour, 57.7 miles an hour.
Beautifully through, bypassing 10 to 11.
Yeah, 10 is a number rather than an actual corner now, isn't it?
Yes, sir. This is a great job.
Top speed, 80.9 miles an hour. They will go quicker, hanging it up there for speed on the final corner. No victory rolls yet. That sort of desperation possibly might come in the second heat.
Oh, we hope not. That's not fun for the brakeman.
He's raced here in 2 Junior World Championships and in Europa Cup, but has never started a World Cup race here. In fact, Timo Rona only in his 7th ever World Cup 2-man start.
Yeah, so the guy's getting fresh ice there as well, really taking full advantage of that. So again, we'll see. So the hit's not too bad. I would want his hips a little lower there.
Yeah.
But once he gets going, you've got guys like Luca and some other boys on the circuit as well. They're just so talented. They can just find power positions no matter where they are. He's run that a bit far.
Yeah.
That might affect his velocity. So again, we'll see how this stacks up.
You saw the runners coming up off the ice, so he's not getting that forward motion going immediately.
No, he's lifting.
Too much of a lift. All right, lifting for the gym. Next up, for the first time since 2014, where Michael Klingler represented the country, Lichtenstein are back in the World Cup of Bobsleigh. Martin Krantz, 20 years old, the driver. Lawrence Lenher, 24 years old, his brakeman. And for both, it is a World Cup debut. And actually for the brakeman, his first ever bobsled race was only in February last year, so...
Yeah, well, I spoke to Lorenz. He said that his was a pandemic situation. He got bored at home in Liechtenstein, emailed the bobsleigh team for tryouts, and here he is now.
Okay, 5-5-0. They are still very new to this sport, but great to see another small nation competing.
Definitely. No, with this sort of thing with small nations, it's just about visibility. People need to see that they can come and do this sport. And at this stage for these boys, they're so young as well. It's just a great experience. He's not doing too badly here.
Okay. Nice, smooth-looking lines. Second season driving, has raced here on 2 weekends in Europa Cup, so he's got a little bit of knowledge of this track. Martin Krantz.
Yeah, he's nicely around Kreisel, controlled that well. And this is all pretty quiet. It's not too bad. They're always going to be giving away a bit at the start there. Nicely through into 11.
In a field of 18, if they complete the run on, well, even the wrong way up, but all of them in the sled, they will get a second heat.
Yeah, no trouble there.
130.1, just 1/10 of a mile an hour down in terms of top speed. That's one of the bizarre things about this that I always think that doesn't happen in, say, motor racing. They started, what, 2,800 slower, and yet at the bottom of the track, 1/10 of a mile an hour difference in speed. So if you get if you go to St. Moritz and you get in a taxi bob, they walk you off the top. You're within 1 kilometre an hour of top speed of a 4-man sled in a taxi bob. It's insane.
Yeah, and you know what? Well, great for the people paying their money to do a taxi bob then, because they're getting an accurate representation. Because we've had it at the start of the season in Whistler, which is the fastest track in the world. I was asking Brad, when we're going 96 miles an hour, are we going to feel it when we're going 97 or 98? And he said, no, you don't notice at that stage. Exactly. You're just absolutely flying. But I think these guys have done a great job there on their debut.
Really nice to see them. And a legend of bobsledding, Donald Holstein, is part of their coaching setup. So really nice to see 2 young guys from, and in terms of tiny nations, Liechtenstein is right there with some of the tiniest. Only Monaco, I think, has, and Vatican City has a smaller. We never yet had a Vatican City sled.
No, that's from the Cardinal down the track, yeah.
There we go, yeah. Purple sled. Dominic Dvorak next up from the Czech Republic with Jakub Prochaska, and Dominic returning to the World Cup. Didn't go to North America. Adam Dobes, his young teammate, did, but he's returned with a couple of new brakemen as well. Jakub now in his 3rd season as a brakeman.
Yeah, so Jakub's actually learning to be a pilot as well. So he's pushing today, and then going to be doing pilot duties in the World Juniors here in Winterberg next week. So Dom's been at home for the whole of the North American circuit because they're developing so many new brakemen. With the retirements of Kuba, of Sindelar, Tsuki, so they're really bringing a lot of guys through. So it made sense to stay at home. So it's lovely to see him back in the World Cup. We'll see what he's got in store today.
Yeah, we're really interested to see what Jakub Prochaska can do. Junior Worlds are here next week for bobsleigh and skeleton. 600s behind at the start. Stays 600s behind, keeping in touch.
So you see now he's out of Kreisel, so we start to see as we approach his 9. Target's there, number 1 speed.
Yeah. More speed, closing down.
There, so he's going to maintain speed here.
It's level now, and it will go green. It does.
We should be hoping with that sort of speed, about a tenth at the bottom.
Yep. And 0.2 miles an hour faster, 81.1 at the bottom. So a 56.15 slide. So that gives him 0.07 of a second in hand over Timo Röner.
Absolutely, and outdriving his start, which is always a nice place to be. Joachim will appreciate that.
Yeah. No, as a brakeman, you don't. You want to be first starter, and it doesn't matter what the driver does.
I said he's forgotten it all.
Yeah.
Goes in the back, he's like, no.
Well, it's always the first thing that a coach says is the start time, because that's the only thing the brakeman wants to know.
Exactly, yeah.
And,
especially if you're out the medals, just tell me the start. I don't need to know the end.
Yeah. Two big, fast sprinters, 10,900 meters. Dominik Dvorak.
Oh, and his head came up a little early there.
Yeah. Got a little lost.
Yeah. Not good for air, Joachim.
No. So that's a couple of hundreds. And you see, when you're sitting up, you see how much it made the sled move around, that weight coming right up. Next up, Adam Dobes with Dominik Zaleski. And Dominik is the current Czech 100-meter record holder, 10.16.
Yeah, Dom is an absolute pocket rocket. They've got a heavy sled here, so I can really relate to these guys. This is close to a 200-kilo sled. Adam's a weightlifter and kind of light as well, but Dom is, look at the turnover, he's absolutely rapid. See what they've got in the tank.
Second
That's
World
a
Cup
great
start
job
for Dobes.
Well done, Dom.
5:20, excellent.
Very good. So Dom came back on the scene a couple of years ago. He was in Lillehammer and pushed some really, really good times with Adam, actually. So we really started to notice, even though he's a smaller guy, with the speed he's got, he just acquits himself so well at the start.
Yeah.
That was good.
And he's been with Dominik Dvorak a couple of times. So Adam Dobes actually briefly was a brakeman before he started driving. Little rocking and rolling from 6 to 7.
Yeah, and we saw that tap on the expansion joint 4.5, so we might see some speed wiped away. There we go. Yeah. There it goes. Now a little tap there. You don't want that.
Doesn't take long to catch up with you, does it?
He's got through there okay. But yeah, look, a little high.
Yeah, worryingly high in 11, but he pulled it off. The problem there is, of course, that takes more speed out of the set. Lowest speed so far, and across the line, 56.58.
Yeah, so unfortunately, like we saw, that tap in 5 just set him into a skid, and just essentially he's wiping speed from there. Look, he knows it as well. That's it.
Well, one World Cup start for Adam Dobes, and that was in Park City. He was essentially in North America, basically doing North America's Cup, and did the Park City World Cup race.
That's it.
And so 11th place, his World Cup best so far.
Well, Zalewski can certainly smile there. He's done a great job on the start. There you go. You can see the tap there. Just brings that highness to haul it back down again.
Yeah. That's a proper reaction steer. Woo!
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we see Dom bouncing around the back. That's when you have slight panic stations as a brakeman. You feel that momentary silence.
Yeah.
You think, oh dear, here comes the barrel roll.
When your backside's no longer in contact with the sled.
Yeah, it's all gone terribly wrong.
Michael Vogt now with Sandro
Michel.
Yeah, listen, okay, I'm going to have the same tomorrow with Martina Fontanive.
So Sandro is a fantastic athlete, another huge talent in the Swiss pool. He's a former discus thrower, and he's run that far as well. Look at that, and 5:20. So that shows the quality of Zalewski's push, because Sandro and Vogt are fantastic athletes and much heavier. Sandro also, as well, is managing a pretty nasty neck injury, so he's doing a great job at the moment. So now we're just going to see if they maintain that velocity. If Mickey has a quiet top of the track here, he should see what a sort of run Adam would have been hoping for. So bypass 5.
Yeah.
And we'll see him, imagine, pulling away.
Yeah, up to 3/10 now, and top speed as well for Michael Vogt. He sure can drive. He showed that a couple of seasons ago. The pre-Olympic season really came on strong.
Oh, Mickey's a serious talent. He always has been. He's a real danger man. And he's, 4th place in the Olympics in 2-man, just outside the medals, which he was pretty disappointed with. But this is pretty quiet, pretty clean.
Yeah.
Great job,
really
Mickey.
Good run. 40.
Yeah. Nearly went for that. Sandro's neck would not have thanked him. But that's a great job from the Swiss boys there.
Yeah. 55.70. 54.89 is the track record. So we're within a second of it. It's actually much more benign today. Track is quicker because the weather is not so wet. And that means the refrigeration isn't having to fight mushy ice. Well, got a lot of corner 0, little tap on the way down to corner 1, but no skid.
Yeah, and he's keeping it relatively quiet. I mean, the chaos starts after corner 9, so you can stay clean through there. You know, bypass 10, get yourself into the labyrinth 12, 13. If you're quiet as you can. He tried it.
Yeah.
Look at him. Sort it out, Mickey.
And that's just don't steer, don't steer, don't steer. Trust the process.
Absolutely.
So Mihai Tentea leads after the first 5 sleds. Heat 1 of race 4 of the 2-man World Cup. Our 6th starter in the field today in Winterberg, his 5th World Cup start, 32-year-old Canadian Taylor Austin. And Taylor has never been on this track before. Shaquille Murray-Lawrence behind him, making his 3rd World Cup start.
Yes, Taylor's doing a good job so far. They had a little spill in the 4-man in training, so Shaq was a little banged up from that, but they're pretty tough, these guys. Shaq's a former CFL player, played 6 years there, and he actually does motion capture stunts for EA Sports, so there's a fun fact.
Oh, big skid, and oh! I have never seen anybody roll off the 0 curve. We very nearly saw it there.
Oh,
goodness
my first
me.
experience of commentator's curse, saying what he's doing. Sorry, Taylor. But if he keeps this quiet now, let's see if he can pull something back here.
Well, this is one of the hardest things I always think, you know, you go at it from the start like a bull in a china shop, and then you've got to be zen calm on the way down, and then you make a mistake in the very first corner. You've somehow got to not spend the next minute going,
just cursing yourself. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, it looks like he's doing that here. This is all pretty good thereafter, so he'll be frustrated with that. But these are, you know, he's never been there before. These are problems he can sort out for the 4-man.
Yeah.
And Shaq's done a good job with the start there as well. Nice through here. This isn't too bad.
Second highest speed.
Yeah,
That's
he'll be
still,
frustrated with that.
That is still a good run, but the 0 curve.
That just killed him off, didn't it?
Yeah, Justin Cripsler on the left there, the bronze medalist here in the last race in January 22. He knows. And Lyndon Rush will have made mistakes in 0 as well. Everybody who's ever come here hates 0.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's before you even get to turn 1. It's where they load. When they run out of the drive lines, the sled just breaks away and steers itself left. Watch that.
Yeah, there it goes. Sets into a skid.
So I don't know if he didn't quite have his hands on the D-rings as
I'd imagine.
Shaq got in.
Because it did look like they were well within the grooves when they were loading. I was wondering if Shaq had maybe overrun it, but he hasn't at all.
But they had a bump on the wall, and that actually possibly saved them, but I don't think I've ever seen a sled get 2 runners up on 0. Oh, hello, is there a German in the house? It is Christoph Hafer with Matthias Sommer behind him, 2 30-year-olds. Christoph 5th here in the race in January.
Yeah, Christoph is known as arguably one of, if not the best driver on the circuit. He's got excellent hands, but he's a little weaker in the push, so his brakemen are always got their work cut out for them, with respect, Christoph. And he's had a bad back as well.
Yeah, he has. This duo were the Olympic bronze medalists in the 2-man in Beijing. Let's see if they can get in among the medals here as well.
That's 6. Matthias is a former 100-meter sprinter as well, and that's a 27. That's not a bad push at all. And he's clean through, so we're expecting to see a classic German drive down Winterberg. We should see it absolutely clean and tidy up the top, and some super German 2-man speed at the bottom here.
Still only 700s back on Mihai Vogt, and they started 700 slower than the Swiss, so he's lost nothing yet.
Still maintaining. He's got the #1 speed, so if he keeps this clean round Kreisel and he gets clean round 9, we might start seeing him pulling away. There we go, 300s. Starting to see the time. Speed. That's nice, that's nice. He's threaded it through. Here we go.
Level now and into the green. It's nudged away into 14. But best speed at the line, the new leader, Christoph Hafer, by a whisker.
Yeah, 400, so that's not too bad. I was expecting to see that. You can't predict the German 2-mans at the bottom. You think, oh, 100th, maybe it'll be 4 at the line, and then it's 4/10. So it's...
Yeah, from turn 9, you either build speed or you gradually lose it. And often you can go in to the final corner behind and come out in front, or vice versa.
That's it. The boys have done a good job there. Obviously, Christoph had that nightmare in Whistler where the 4-man went flying up the track and got destroyed, and he took that on the chin, actually. That was him loosening a bolt and not putting it back properly. So they've been through some dramas so far this year, but there's some great results, Christoph.
I talked to Marco about that, so I want to see those runners because they'll be planed flat, and he said, no, they'll polish out. I said, you're kidding me.
Oh, I don't want to be the brakeman. They're forced to do that.
So they'll be like training runners, but he said, but no, they're not trash. They'll be used again. Yeah. Amazing. So Christoph Hafer, the leader by 400s from Mihai Vogt, and then 4900s back in third, Dominik Dvorak. So we are already in a two-heat race, or two-part race. Next up, Brad Hall, Taylor Lawrence on the back, Big T, Royal Marine Commando in only his third two-man World Cup start.
So we'll be expecting to see a huge start here. Taylor is an absolute unit. It's something the team don't expect. There we go, 14, look at that. Go on, big man. So Brad just needs, as we talked in the POV at the start, he just needs to maintain this speed, hold this velocity all around the top, keep it as clean and tidy as possible, and we should see something pretty good at the point.
And the problem with this track is that it's less of a driver's track, and it's all about tiny detail and just avoiding that little clip there that he took on the expansion joint. That's going to take about a tenth out of the sled.
Yeah, that is exactly what he didn't want to do. But let's see if he can hold this here. The kit's been running well. Second fastest speed. He might see it bleed away, but if he can just hold these lines nicely down here, he always drives this bit so beautifully.
A really big start from the team, and Brad still with a slender lead over Christoph Hafer and better speed than the German sled at the bottom. Oh, 100. Wow.
Well, he'll know exactly, he's shaking his head, he knows exactly what he'll need to sort. Yeah. The next one, but that'll be so frustrating.
That joint in the concrete that allows it to expand in the summer, it's a gap, and in the winter, it's when there's not much ice, it's hard to fill. So actually, the far side of that expansion joint, where there is a gap in the ice sticks out. Look at it here. You can see it sticking out clearly. And dink, there you go.
And it caught both bales as well, so that's just, which actually might have leveled him out a bit.
That knocks, imagine going downhill leisurely on your bicycle and you clip a tree as you're going by, it stops you, and that's exactly what happens to the sled.
Not so good.
But still, not a bad first run, Brad, don't worry.
Clean up in the second run.
Yeah,
he knows. But what a push from Taylor.
Yeah, really good start. That puts them right in the frame. And you know that there is a pair of German eyes in the start house watching that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll see them out in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, Mihai Tentea of Romania, again, first World Cup race of the season for Mihai, and nice to see him not having to sit in here in Winterberg. He's had a couple of World Cup races here.
Yeah, I spoke to Mihai Tentea, that is, on the front handle started this week. He's nursing a little bit of a hamstring problem, but he seems to be doing better now. And obviously, Pacianu on the back, he's done well there. He's a convert from skeleton, and another part of the hastily coined by myself and Eric Franke Team Skinny. And he's doing a good job of putting weight on and getting himself in there. So this is his, he said to me, it's technically not his two-man debut. But he did push with Tentea with a more serious injury, so they're considering this as debut.
That was in January 22 when Mihai was sitting in, and actually they had run out of bodies. And the link is that Mihai Pacianu's father is the coach of the team, or one of the coaches of the team. So, yeah, he's been doing skeleton and bobsled for the last couple of years, and now I did say to him yesterday or the day before, are you definitely a bobsledder now? He said, yeah, definitely a bobsledder now.
That's it, he's fully committed.
Yeah.
A fantastic choice.
6300s back for Mihai Tentea, fourth best speed though, and that's a top 6 run at the moment, just outside. Yeah, 100th back, 200s back from Taylor Austin.
Okay, but that's not too bad though. They've you just see Dobes, where you can really see where that severe hit he had has just pulled them back, which has just wiped out their speed. So, but Mihai's done well there. Oh, he's a little hasty on the brakes.
Yeah, Pacianu just a little early. Let's take a look at Zero. Yeah, got on late, got off late, had a little bump where the ice changes shape in Zero, and that threw him into the wall on the run down to turn 1.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. That just takes away, so much of your velocity.
And then here, pretty decent middle line for turn 11.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be too disappointed with that. It's first time back on World Cup. They had a decent European Cup campaign, and body's fit, ready to go, I think.
So the eyes that were watching Brad Hall and Taylor Lawrence's start will have been those of Torsten Margis. Francesco Friedrich always goes for the records. In fact, on today's Friedrich record watch, he has a total of 124 World Cup medals as of now, and Olympic and World Championship medals.
Oh, he was a little bit tense again there.
Yeah, he's struggling with a bit of an injury, and I think that is the first time I've ever said that.
Well, and that's a 5th rank push, so that tells you everything you need to know. Franz is not 100% at the moment. He's got Big Torsten on the back. These guys have just won everything together, and repeatedly. But they are class acts as well, and it was actually really special for us when we won our Golden Passage. I really shared that with Torsten. He was very supportive of that. But here we're going to see Friedrich showing how the Germans do this. But he's only 300ths away.
Yeah, 4th best speed into the Kreisel. And that's what the driver does. He's won 5 of the last 6 World Cup races on this track.
Okay, it's interesting. He's dropped back now, though.
Yep. Well, they had a slight advantage at the start. A 10th back, 1700ths back. I wonder if he's actually aggravated an injury and is in a bit of pain in the sled.
Yeah, that's very unusual.
Not many days you see Francesco Friedrich losing ground on a track if you're not in Sigulda.
You know, the guy has just been so consistent for so long, and just seeing a human being there, the guy is not the alien that he gets the reputation for. You know, he's such a phenomenal driver, such a phenomenal athlete. And you can see he's not 100%.
Yeah. We'll take a look again at the start, I'm sure. Watch him running. You know, normally he's one of the most powerful athletes.
Yeah, look how tentative he is.
Yeah. Looked like he actually slipped there just as he was trying to load.
And Torsten knows, look at him, he's still going, still going.
Yeah.
I've got to make up the deficit here.
Look, we've got 2 weeks at home for these guys in Altenburg, and then the World Championships, which bizarrely, for some reason, don't come at the end of the season. Reasons I'm not quite aware of.
I think is that a weather thing, I was told?
Well, the weather right now in the Alps, they could have left it another 2 weeks. It might be colder.
Exactly, we're going out on Bobsleigh with wheels.
Yeah. Francesco, not his usual bubbly, smiley self. Next up, Marcus Trico, Christian Huber for Austria. And Marcus's form has really, really taken an upward tick this year, inheriting all of the top Austrian brakemen from what was Benny Meyer's crew.
Yeah, and Christian on the back, there's a fantastic operator, particularly in the foreman. On the back of the foreman is fantastic. He's another multi-eventer, continues that decathlon tradition, and he's pushed 22 there for Marcus. That's a good job. So Marcus really has profited from taking on that world-class crew from Benny. And we particularly saw it in Park City. We saw the impact when Marcus Sammer arrived out. Sammer is just another absolute unit on their team. So it's lovely to see Trico getting some results here. He's showing he's a great pilot.
Well, absolutely right. Yeah, and you know, you need the whole thing. You need to be able to drive. You need decent kit, but you need a good start as well. Dropping away now from 500s up to 300s back.
So 5th fastest speed here, and he's kept it relatively clean.
And don't forget, only 400ths of a second cover the top 3, so you basically beat all of them or none of them, and those are the odds, really. You're either going to be 1st or 4th. 7th best speed. Top 5 run at the line, ahead of Dvorak he is. How much? Oh, considerably ahead of Dvorak. He's only 500s behind Friedrich, and that's never a bad place on any day.
No, absolutely. I mean, like you said, that is quite a sizable gap to 6th there, so he'll be pretty happy with that, I imagine. Yeah,
so he's in the top table, and Dominic Dvorak is at the top of the championship.
That's it. And Huber bagging him, as it stands, a top 4 push as well, which is a great work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going to be many faster.
Just bypassed that expansion joint, you just see that there.
He just snagged it, didn't he? Very high line in 11.
That's it.
Well, if you can trust it and use the speed out of it, so much the better.
Absolutely. It's so cool seeing those images, because obviously my experience of it is I'm flat packed in the back.
You don't see anything, mate.
Yeah.
You need to take the odd taxi bob ride. It's really enjoyable being able to watch where the driver's taking you.
I think
next up then for Switzerland, Simon Friedli with Andy Haas behind him, Andreas Haas, and Simon 8th place in the race here in January.
Yeah, Friedli's had an excellent development in progress from brakeman to pilot. He was one of their best push athletes, as is the model for Bobsleigh, get your best athletes in the front seat. And Andy Haas is a 10-600 metre guy. So again, we're looking at 2 quality operators. So there you go, 21, another excellent start in this field.
100th slower than, faster than Marcus Trico and his crew, and that's sort of where he's got to be aiming for, somewhere in the top 5, Friedli.
Absolutely.
Have a chance of a medal here.
He's got green numbers at the moment, which is great work. So if he can just keep this tidy, he might not drop back too far. This is okay so far.
Hafer is the slowest starter in the top group on the 5:27 getaway. Only 7th best speed, though, for Simon Friedrich. He's been steering a little too much to get the line.
Nicely through there, that's beautiful.
Nice smooth ride in the back, right up until about here when you get into the labyrinth and the driver starts flopping off everything.
That's it. I think maybe you're right. I think maybe there was some more steering at the top there, because it seemed like a quiet run, but there was just speed leading away there.
Looks like he might have been working a little hard for it. 56 flat at the bottom, only 700ths away from Marcus Treichel. So again in the mix, he's kind of ahead of that break to Dominik Dvorak, but they're starting to fill up the group now.
That's it. And the top starts at the moment seem to be around the low 520s and into the teens. If the guys really want to make a play for these top 3 spots, they're going to have to start a little bit faster, try and keep that velocity in there.
And avoid that expansion joint on the run down to turn 4. It's an absolute speed killer.
That's it. And
there's a very early take on.
Yeah, a little rough. Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting fast starts and some top speed, we're going to see that on the next pair.
Yeah. There is Simon Friedrich. Now then, for Germany, Hansi Lochner and the giant that is Georg Fleischhauer. Fleischhauer coming later, not from the start of the season, into the crew as his normal driver, Richard Olsner, was injured. And he's an absolute beast, isn't he?
He's a big guy, and he comes with a really high caliber athletic background behind him. He competed in the 4 hurdles for Germany in Daegu in 2011, and he's topped out there push testings, and he's just, there we go, 5:12, look at that. That's a massive push. That's a massive good job, Bjorn. He just, he deserves to be on World Cup. Richie, best wishes out to him. He had some injury issues pre-Christmas, and Lochner really made the right decision on inheriting him for this season. It's just, so far, one race, 1 gold medal.
Absolutely, and if you give Hansi Lochner a start in a 2-man or a 4-man, he's always a contender.
Definitely.
Kind of tend to think of him more as a 4-man specialist, but actually he has beaten Friedrich in a number of 2-man races as well. Silver medalist in the last 2 races here, Hansi.
Beautifully around there. He's going to carry all this speed all the way to the end here and open up. Oh, it's not as fast as...
hasn't quite got the speed. It's going to be in single digits, ahead of Hafer by a 10th. Okay, that'll do, 55-56.
Interesting, we've got a great race here.
Yeah, we have. Started 1500s quicker than Christoph Hafer, comes down a 10th in front, so empirically Hafer drove that better in the first heat.
Well, that's what we're talking about with Christoph. He said he's got the eyes and hands of, better than anyone in the circuit, really. He's an exceptional driver. But Hansi as well has got serious 2-man pedigree, serious 4-man. I mean, we're looking at the Olympic silver medalist here, so you don't win that by not having serious driving.
No, exactly right.
This is nice. These are beautiful pictures. Look at the lines he takes. He's just... They know these tracks like the back of their hand.
Yeah, the Olympic silver medalist leads the Olympic bronze medalist, Brad Hall, in 3rd place. Behind him, Mikael Vogt, and then the Olympic champion, Francesco Friedrich. For Latvia, Emil Sipoulis returns to the World Cup. And Latvian bobsledding in a little bit of transition at the moment, aren't they? They're looking to find the next big driver to hang their hat on.
Definitely. They're a similar situation to the Canadians. It's exciting times, it's huge opportunity. But what these guys do is they just churn out monstrous push athletes year after year after year. And on the back here is Mats Miknes, who is possibly one of the best they've ever had. So 5:19, with a new pilot, that's just exceptional pushing to get under 5:20.
Yeah, Mats Miknes is not only fast and powerful, but just keeps turning up to races as well.
Yeah, he's consistent. He obviously loves the sport, and he's a huge proponent for it. He was actually one of the inspirations. I started the platform with Brakeman to celebrate our push athletes, and part of the inspiration was from guys like Mattis, who no one knows who he is, because he's just, he's a basketball player from Latvia who's done extremely well in bobsleigh. Yeah. But he's a phenomenal athlete. People should know his name. They should know how good he is.
11th best speed. This is currently a top 10 run. The
beautiful through there.
Ahead of Dominik Dvorak, chasing Simon Friedrich.
Little tap there, but other than that, it was pretty tidy.
Decent speed. Where's he going to be? Top 10. He is 8th. He is ahead of Dominik Dvorak. So
A couple of tenths outside of
300s. Yeah. So 300s ahead of Dvorak, a 10th ahead of Timo Rona. Nice little battle shaping up there for Emil Sapoulis.
Definitely. I think he'd be pleased with the top 10 if he can sustain that in the next run as well.
Yeah.
Still learning, still developing. And they've got new brakemen coming through as well. So it's going to be a fascinating time in the Latvian program to see who comes to the fore here.
And of course, you get that quite often every sort of actually commonly every 8 years, you get a bit of a drop-off as athletes reach the end of their effective life and go, okay, I can't do another 4 years of this and retire. And so, yeah.
Yeah, athletes with sense tend to retire after the Olympic marathon, but some of us masochists like to keep it going for a little longer. But yeah, it's great to see some of the big boys, some of the big heads from these nations keeping it going and staying in the game.
They need a few more Oscarses. Next up for Italy, Mattia Variola and Jose Obu.
So Obu is a great guy, and this is someone, again, I'm real kindred with. This guy is a 10.2 sprinter, so brings a great speed pedigree, and a couple of times Italian 100-meter champion as well, I think. And Mattia, and his driving journey from braking to the handle, is an excellent push athlete. So we're looking to see some speed here.
Now he remains the only Italian sled in the field. There were 2 at the beginning of practice, but
16, look at that.
Wow. Baumgartner has torn a muscle in his back, so he's not competing.
Yeah, best wishes to Patrick.
Now that's bad news for Patrick, because to go to the World Championships, he's supposed to have 3 World Cup starts under his belt this year, and he isn't starting here, and that might rule him out of the Worlds in St. Moritz.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah. There was quite a few athletes who didn't realise that and didn't go to North America and suddenly went, oh, hang on a minute, wait, we have to do all 3 European races. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, here, that should be arranged by their management.
Really got tapped away early there.
Yeah. Well, he's just squirreled through there, so he keeps us clean now. So, again,
the key with a younger driver like that is knowing the danger is there. If you get a tap, it's not just a tap. In the wrong place, it can be that can lead to a roll. So he did well to hang on to that. Jose was kind of half sitting up there.
I think he was ready to stop the ride, I think.
Yeah. Stop it, I want to get off. Is there not a big red button in these that you push if you want it to stop?
Absolutely. So Mattia won't be too pleased with the drive. I remember not having too great a time here last year. But he's developing, he's learning.
Yeah.
And when you've got a guy who can push like that on the front handle, you've got to stick with it, you've got to teach him.
Simone Bertazzo there at the front, former Italian driver. Spent, I guess, nearly 20 years driving bobsleds and now coaching these guys.
Well, another one with a huge reputation for outdriving his start.
Yeah.
You know, so if he's being taught, certainly by the right people.
Oh, look at
Little
that.
rough, that transition. Yeah. His head bobbling around there.
Well, when you get pushed away and then you have to get it on to 9, Nine's always going to be an adventure.
Yeah, he's done well to survive that. But great pushing, guys.
Yeah.
There you go, Boo, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he's happy, isn't he? 5:16 start. So Hansi Lochner still the leader from Christoph Hafer and Brad Hall. We have 4 more sleds to go. 3 more sleds to go. Can't count. Next up is Li Chunjian of China. So good to see the Chinese back in World Cup racing. They didn't compete in North America.
Yeah, so these guys are a team we're still getting to know as well. You know, obviously with COVID last year, they pretty much stayed in China.
Yep.
They're actually in our hotel this week in Winterberg, and they're good fun. There was a birthday. They seem like a really close-knit team, and I'll be interested to see what they push it, because their 4-man pushing, that's not too bad. So their 4-man pushing in Europe early season was exceptional.
Just got a little bit of a late exit off the 0 curve and a meander down to 1. The 5:25 getaway.
Wu's done a good job there. So Wu actually pushed Sun Kaizi in the Olympics. And so I think he seems to be someone they're designating as a 2-man operator. But like I said, it was just seeing their numbers in Innsbruck for the Europa Cup as a 4-man crew, where we saw this was going to be really fascinating to see how this program develops.
Yeah. And the more time they spend with other athletes, the more they'll sort of integrate into the sliding family. The English will become better, and that language barrier will start to become less of an issue. And that's really where I think the whole thing takes off then.
Well, we hope so, but they also might have seen some of the antics of our crew and the German crew, and might think they want nothing to do with it. 56.58. Well, British social media and Chinese social media may be slightly different, I guess, but
It's good to have them back.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, COVID prevented them travelling last year, which was in the end not so much of a hardship because where did they train? Oh yeah, the Olympic track that nobody else knew.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, so there are some things that are a benefit in life, and that didn't hurt too much. Just he avoided the joint, but
and maybe a little late on his exits here, which is just pushing him. But that's not too bad.
And again, when you don't have much experience of the track, and he doesn't, when the weather changes dramatically after a slow training day to a not-so-slow race day, first run down, you're going, ooh, hang on a minute, and trying to readjust. And that's all part of the learning experience. Next up, a World Cup debutant for Latvia. We talked with Emos Tsipulis about new talent coming in, and here is a brand new driver, Jēkabs Kalenda, a former rower, had his first race in December 2021. He's been here once in Europa Cup, and Ivo Kleinberg's on the back, his third season.
And look at that, racing. Look at the start, 5:18, a sub 5.2. So this guy is so young, and Kleinberg's as well on the back. He's got a World Junior medal in his pocket from last year. And he's they're just showing the Latvian pedigree. And they might have outpushed Tsipulis, they did. That's really good going. So, and Kleinberg is another basketball convert. You know, you get these guys in Latvia, they play street basketball, they get pulled into bobsleigh things, they've never done a sprint session in their lives, and then they're just built for this. Really cool to see.
Yeah, there are obviously some very friendly coaches in certain sports in Latvia who just keep shoveling talent towards the bobsleigh program.
Well, that's just bobsleigh in a nutshell, isn't it? It's constant networking.
Yeah. Stealing all the athletes from everybody else. 7800's back. Top 12 run, though, for his World Cup debut. Ahead of Mihai Tentea at the line. No, just loses a fraction behind Mattia Variola. Sandis Prusis there on the right-hand side. He was the lead Latvian driver when I started all this nonsense nearly 25 years ago.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, the start's fantastic. The drive wasn't too bad. And we've got a guy here who's got all the ingredients to be part of this Latvian program going forward.
Well,
so young.
He's had one race weekend on this track, so his knowledge of this place is very limited. Wait till the end of the season when we get to Sigulda.
Oh, absolutely.
That's going to be fun.
And you didn't see it in this picture, but it looked to me that on the hit, so when they set off the block together, it was just slightly out of time.
Yeah.
So you want to synchronize with your pilot. So every crew has their own call, which choreographs and synchronizes the push. So you're as synchronized as possible when you set off the block. And it looked like they were a little bit out of time, which again shows how exceptionally they pushed.
And that's often a thing when the driver doesn't start on the front handle. Him getting to the handle the moment the brakeman really dips into the sled can be quite tough.
Absolutely.
Welcome back as well to Croatia's Drazen Silic, the 37-year-old, two-time Olympian, and Mario Starek behind him, 34 years old, making his World Cup debut. He has had two-man races in North America in his career.
The Drazen is a great character. He loves bobsleigh. He comes here and does his best. We had a really fun ride with him up the shuttle during training, and he was telling us some stories from back in the days. And there's a famous video of the Brazilian pilot, the helmet coming off, which thankfully she's fine and she was okay and everything. But he told me that he was the last person on the block to wish her luck before she left, and he said he's never wished anyone luck since. Don't you curse us, Drazen.
That's a German rental sled. Now, it's not uncommon that you see that here in Winterberg, that Germans will loan out an older sled.
And he's not having a bad drive so far. The top of the track here was pretty quiet.
18th best start. He gave away 4400s to the leader in the start.
Bit of a skid out of 9. But he's getting down here. This looks okay.
Drazen is not necessarily expecting to win any medals here. He does win hearts and minds. He just loves doing this racing. And to find a new brakeman at the tender age of 34 as well, you know, he's obviously calling in some friends and favours to get the programme back on its feet.
Well, like you say, bobsledders tend to have the gift of the gab, so they know how to get people in sleds and to get bums on seats. And yeah, you've got to know how to convince people to come and do this crazy thing.
He is good fun to have around, Drazen Silic.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
So 18th spot with a 57.47. Everybody safely down and completes their run. And we got a yellow sled at the front of the field and a yellow sled at the tail of the field.
Yeah, he just gets pushed up a bit there. But this is okay. Like I say, I think he'll be pretty happy with that. Getting down at this stage. He was making jokes about stealing Brad's helmet this week. We've got our helmets, which we hated at the start of this year. Everyone seems to, there you go, he wants to get rid of it. Yeah, they all seem to love our helmets, so it's...
There you go. So 1 heat down, 1 to go in the 4th two-man race of the season. Hansi Lochner and Georg Fleischhauer are the race leaders from their teammates Hafer and Sommer. Paul Lawrence in 3rd place, and the top 4 covered by 1400ths of a second. That's where you sense the medals are coming from.
Definitely, and it's going to be seeing that this, people don't make those mistakes at the top.
Yeah, and not among those top 4, Francesco Friedrich. Now, never say never, but he does not look entirely healthy. The last podium without a Friedrich on it was Winterberg in January 2014.
Wow.
Yeah, 8 years. Almost to the day since we have had a two-man podium without Francesco Friedrich on it. The last race that Friedrich did not win was actually the 17-18 season here, and Clemens Bracher and Michael Quonen. That was Bracher's only ever two-man win, only ever medal in a two-man. And Franzi was in 2nd place there, tied with Chris Sprigg. Well, is Friedrich going to get in the medals, or is Lochner going to run away with this one? Join Greg and me for the 2nd heat to see who is going to take the silverware here in Winterberg.
In den Bob einzusteigen. Das nicht nur rein kurz, sondern tatsächlich mit Druck einzusteigen. Und vermutlich ist eine Tür auf Fleischhaus, der die Tür in der Straße gelaufen ist, wenn es mir doch hier auch wirklich mit Power in den Bob einzugehen. Ja, der Sieger hat einen Weg und